I moved into my first apartment about 3 years ago. It was an old building, but I loved it. The charm, the old hardwood floors, the high ceilings. Sure, it creaked a bit and the windows rattled at night, but it felt cozy. At the time, I was living alone. My roommate had suddenly dropped out of our plans to live together, and with rent coming up, I didn't have much time to find a replacement. After a month of scraping by on my own, I finally found a girl named Emily who was looking for a place. She seemed normal enough, quiet, friendly. We met up, hit it off, and she moved in a week later. The first month went pretty smoothly. Emily wasn't around much, which was honestly nice. I'd always been a bit of a loner, so having a quiet roommate was ideal. But then strange things started happening around the apartment. It began with the little things. At first I noticed that food I'd bought seemed to be going missing, but I figured Emily was just helping herself. Then I started finding my clothes in strange places. One time, my favorite hoodie was draped over the back of the couch, even though I'd left it in my closet. When I asked Emily about it, she shrugged it off, acting confused. But she'd always have this little smile on her face, like she knew something I didn't. One night, things got weirder. I woke up to the sound of footsteps in the hallway. Half asleep, I figured it was Emily and didn't think much of it. But then I heard the footsteps again, and again. It was like someone was pacing up and down the hall, over and over. I called out her name, but there was no response. After what felt like forever, the footsteps finally stopped. The next morning, I asked Emily if she'd been up late, and she just looked at me, confused. She said she hadn't heard anything and had been asleep all night. I brushed it off, thinking maybe I'd just been half awake and imagined it. But that night, it happened again. I started keeping track of the strange things that happened around the apartment. Lights would flicker, doors would creak open on their own, and sometimes, when I was home alone, I'd feel this intense feeling of being watched. And then there was that smell, like old, stale perfume that I'd catch in certain rooms. It was almost like someone else had been living there before us. One night, I was sitting on the couch watching TV when Emily came in and sat next to me. She was acting different, quiet, distant. She looked at me and asked, "Do you ever wonder why I moved in here so quickly?" I laughed it off, saying, "Hey, cheap rent's hard to pass up." But she didn't smile. "No, really," she continued. "Did you ever wonder why the apartment was empty?" I was confused. "What do you mean?" She took a deep breath. "I didn't just move in because I needed a place. I moved in because I knew about what happened here. Turns out the girl who'd lived in the apartment before us had disappeared. She'd been living alone, just like I had, and one day she just vanished. People assumed she'd run off, but Emily said she didn't believe that. Then Emily looked at me with this strange expression, and her voice dropped to a whisper. I think she's still here." Chills ran down my spine. "What are you talking about?" She pointed down the hallway. "That's why you hear the footsteps. She's pacing, looking for a way out." That night I tried to sleep, but every creak and groan of the apartment felt like it was alive, listening, watching. When I finally did fall asleep, I had this horrible dream that I was trapped in the walls, clawing, screaming, but no one could hear me. After that, things escalated. I'd hear her, yes, I knew it was her by then. I could hear the woman's footsteps every night. It wasn't pacing anymore, though. It was like she was coming closer, room by room. One night, the footsteps stopped right outside my door. I'd had enough. I moved out the very next day, and as I was leaving, I looked back just once at that hallway. For just a split second, I swear I saw a face, half hidden in shadow, watching me. So yeah, that's the story of my roommate who never really left, and I haven't gone back since.